Chocolate chip cookies were a staple dessert in my household growing up, and in many other American homes, it was not unusual to come home to the smell of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. Some real estate agents even use vanilla to mimic the smell. Many of us are familiar with this traditional dessert, but it can be hard to make the perfect homemade chocolate chip cookies from scratch. They should be soft and chewy in the middle, a tad salty, and not overwhelmed by too much chocolate. Because these were my family's favorite dessert and made appearances at almost every holiday and celebration, I'd started baking them with my mother at a very young age. Eventually, I even became the person to make them. I've come pretty close to baking the best chocolate chip cookies, and I wanted to share it with you. There are 3 parts to creating the best chocolate chip cookies. First, and definitely the most important, is what recipe you choose to follow. Since I began baking these cookies, I've used a few different recipes that call for different kinds of flours and sugars and different amounts. But since I began baking them myself, I've discovered the best recipe is by Ghirardelli, though I do make some simple changes. I prefer cookies that are a tad salty, which is one of the reasons I love this recipe, is because the end result is not too sweet. One of these simple changes I mentioned I make is the recipe calls for half brown sugar and half white sugar. After making this recipe a few times, I discovered by accident, when we only had brown sugar one night, we all liked the batch more than usual, and ever since I've only used brown sugar while making cookies. I also only use dark chocolate or semi-sweet chocolate, but your choice of chocolate is completely up to you. The second most important part is how you use the ingredients. It's not only important to use the right recipe and ingredients, but it's also how you should use them the right way. If you were to miss a step, do it out of order or incorrectly, it could change the entire cookie despite using all the right ingredients. For example, if you overmix the dough after adding in the flour, not completely beat your sugar and butter together, or not chill your dough after making it, all of these could change the texture of your cookies. Lastly, you must carefully bake them. Baking is the last step and can differ based on how you like your cookies. As I mentioned previously, before baking, you should chill your dough for at least 30 minutes. After, I prefer softer and more underbaked cookies. So, though the recipe says to bake for 10 minutes, I initially bake for 5 minutes before checking, then continue for around 3 minutes for a total of 8 minutes, based on how baked the cookies are after 5 minutes. This has consistently given me cookies that were soft and gooey on the inside, but completely baked through on the outside. I've developed the way to create the best and my favorite chocolate chip cookies. I have linked the recipe to my speech along with my extra steps and advice. I hope you try making these at home and enjoy as the smell of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies fills your room or home as it did mine.